Angel of light, come into me. Show me what I need to see.
Welcome to the Small Victories podcast. I'm your host, Pauline Victoria, an inspirational thought leader that offers transformational perspectives based on my unique experiences as a woman born without arms and legs. I feel like my life has been full of small victories that has led me to discover the greatness within. I believe that there is no summit upon which we reach our greatness. I believe it is a culmination of small victories achieved moment by moment when we turn toward the inward battle where we get to choose despair or hope, misery or miracles, defeat or victory. My goal is to awaken your potential, your purpose, and your power so that you can discover the greatness that lives within you. Think of this podcast as your weekly portion of tools, stories, and teachings that help you reflect on the small victories in your life. Thanks for tuning in, and let's begin. Welcome to another episode of the Small Victories podcast. I'm your host, Pauline Victoria. What if one of the greatest victories in life is realizing you were never in the way to begin with? In today's episode, I'm joined by Hodges Caldwell Jr., a powerful disability advocate, nonprofit founder, and featured voice in the Netflix documentary Matter of Time alongside Eddie Vedder. Hodges was born with Epidermolysis Bullosa, a rare condition that impacts every part of life. Yet, instead of allowing pain or limitations to define him, he turned his experience into purpose. Through EB Lifestyle Inc., founded in March 2020, he has already helped provide 28 lightweight mobility chairs and scooters to people in need. This conversation is about resilience, advocacy, identity, and the life-changing truth that you are not a burden. You were never meant to shrink yourself for the comfort of others. Hodges, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much, Pauline. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Well, thank you for being on here. Thank you for being a voice for such a rare condition. Actually, when you reached out to me, I did go and watch the Netflix documentary, Matter of Time. And for those of you who are watching, you could see the poster in the background of Hodges. But if you're listening to this, go check it out. It's called Matter of Time. It's on Netflix. And it really chronicles this rare condition called Epidermolysis Bullosa. And we're going to call it EB for short because that is a really complicated word. And if you're like me and you're watching or listening to this, you probably have never heard of this condition. So, Hodges, I'd like to start us getting on the same page. If you could quickly and briefly define what EB is and maybe some facts like how many people does it affect and where are we in terms of a cure for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, epidermolysis bullosa, or EB, the best way that I like to describe it is it's a protein deficiency that affects the skin. And then, as a domino effect, it affects every other part of our body. So, our bodies do not make a certain type of cartilage protein, primarily the C7 cartilage C7A1 protein. Our bodies either don't produce it or it doesn't make enough of it. So that is literally the anchor that anchors your skin layers together between the epidermis and the dermis. So in between, you have all these proteins, these cartilage proteins that anchor your skin layers together, kind of like grass roots. So if you don't have that, then what will happen is the skin will easily shift because there's nothing holding it together, right? So it causes our skin to tear and blister extremely easily. And we get blisters and wounds throughout our entire body. So, that's really kind of the best way to sum it up. A lot of times when people see me, they might think it's a burn because it looks very similar to a burn. And a lot of the treatments that we use burn patients use as well, but it's not a burn. It's a genetic condition that we're born with it at birth.
Yeah. Well, and I know the documentary was for the purposes of helping bring more awareness and raise money for a cure. Do you know how many people this affects worldwide and how close we are to maybe getting a cure?
Well, to be honest, it's such a rare condition. It's hard to put an exact number on it. I would say it affects probably about 1 out of 100 people are born with the condition. That's just how rare it is because it takes two of people to have that genetic marker for you to get it. For some people, a cure can be a problematic term or terminology. However, there are a lot of groundbreaking treatments out that are really pushing the technology and pushing the boundaries. A stereotypical type of EB looks like within a generation with all these new treatments and cures. So the things that me and people in my age group are going through right now with the daily wound care, dressing changes, and bathing in like salt water or chlorine water to get the infections away. We're hoping that with all these new treatments, that stereotypical type of EB will be erased completely or dramatically diminished.
I also learned from the documentary that the lifespan for someone with EB is lower than a average adult, I guess, and you're one of the oldest people living with EB. How have you seen the landscape of people who live with EB transform over the decades that you've been alive?
You know, I was born in '79, so I'm 46 years old now. When I was born, it was pretty much a death sentence. Honestly, the doctors said I would only live to two. That was the life expectancy, and unfortunately, those were real statistics at that time. There just wasn't a lot known about it. And, there just wasn't hardly any treatments or anything like that. So coming from that era of EB and seeing what it has come to now the life expectancy, they don't even want to put a number on it really, but they're comfortable with saying that you can live into your mid to late teens. So the next generation, they're living a lot longer with the treatments that we have out. They're living to 15, 16, 18, well into their early and mid 20s. And that's really refreshing.
Yeah. The skin is something that it's the largest organ on our body. And I think most of us, unless you have like really bad acne or maybe some sort of like eczema or rosacea, I have like rosacea, it really isn't thought about too much. But it is also the most visible organ, right? It's the first thing that they see, whether you're right in front of them or you're across the grocery store aisle. As a person with EB, I'm sure that you have had a variety of experiences when you had to go into public, especially when you were younger. Can you describe or tell us a story where there was some sort of reaction toward you, and how did you handle that in a way that helped you start feeling more empowered?
Well, as a kid, it was really noticeable, especially when I was growing up. You definitely knew something was wrong with me. As soon as you saw me, it was very evident. At that time, my entire face was basically one open wound because EB just wasn't being treated. There was no way to really treat it back then. So it was very obvious something was wrong. So, it might be a little sad to say, but I was very used to being stared at or for kids pointing and things like that. You just kind of, or at least for me, it just kind of became my everyday norm, unfortunately. And maybe it was my personality or my attitude, but I never really let it affect me. Now, maybe I would have friends when I was growing up and they would play with me and everything, but maybe when they got around their other friends, they kind of would shy away or maybe they didn't want to acknowledge me, or so to speak. And that can be hurtful growing up as a child because we all want to belong and be accepted. But out of that, I really learned self-preservation and I really learned at a very young age to be comfortable by myself just because one, I kind of grew up in a hospital. So I was already kind of in a isolated type of environment. So interacting with other people, it could turn into kind of an intimidating thing. I was much more comfortable being alone. I do remember one time we were in New York. My mom, when she had got that diagnosis, we traveled all across the country looking for cures or for treatments. At that time, my mom was definitely looking for a cure. But it wasn't until about 1983 we met with a person who was doing advocacy work for her own son. Her own son had it. He was about 15 or 16. I was only about 4 at the time. And she says, I'm orchestrating this event and I want to get her Goal was simple. She just wanted to get the patients and the doctor, the dermatologist together, and so that they could actually see and put a face to this condition, which is something that back in '83 had never been done before. So it was really groundbreaking. And so we went there, and my mom learned very quickly that there wasn't going to be a cure, but she was invited by a medical team from Rockefeller University in New York. And so they said that we could do treatment. So we lived there for several years. And that was basically our home. And so going back, she was always taking me out to museums and things like that. I had like private tutors that would come and tutor me. But for like special class field trips, we would go to museums and stuff, especially since being in New York. And I can't remember exactly what museum it was, but we were at the children's exhibit and we were looking at this presentation with dinosaurs, and it was really good. And then this kid pointed like, "Oh my God, look at his face!" And I have heard that pretty much my whole up until that point. I think I was 5 at that time, 5 or 6 at that time. I kind of heard that my whole life. I don't know, but for some reason that just kind of stuck with me because I think I was with the whole group the whole time and they had never said anything until we were like in an isolated incident where everybody could hear and, oh, well, maybe that was a setup. I didn't know. But I felt really self-conscious about it. And my mom started seeing that I was kind of tearing up or I was very emotional about it. And she pulled me out of the exhibit for a minute. She didn't blame them, because they're kids. She's like, they just don't understand. And she's like, you being different is going to be your superpower. And surprisingly, that made me feel better. And, we went back in and I just paid no attention. And that was one time that it caught me off guard, I guess, because I was with the group. And most of the time it happens immediately. But because it was a delay, it caught me off guard. And I didn't really know what their motives were or things of that nature. I guess for the first time I felt really different. Even though I knew I was different, but I actually felt it at that young age. I actually felt it for the first time. But I went in there, held up high, went on, participated. I really didn't let it stop me. And so I'm just really blessed that I've always had that attitude, even if I do get caught off guard or if someone does say something out the way. Even adults too. I remember one time I was at the grocery store and this woman was like, "Oh my God, you're all beat up, aren't you?" Is that really how you talk to somebody? Like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, I have a medical condition. It's called ED. I haven't been beat up or in a fight. And she was like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm just educating you. So I've always felt like my mom always kind of put it into my head, like, it's always good to educate people so that the next person doesn't go through what you have to go through. So I've always felt like I was always at the forefront.
Yeah. Thank God for good moms. My mom was huge in my development as well. And yeah, even when you don't feel like you belong on the outside world, you knew you belonged inside, like the family. And so it helps, at least through the childhood phase. I'd like to ask you, where or when did you start feeling like a burden and what did that look like for you?
Well, I really started feeling like a burden, honestly, when I lost my ability to walk. Unfortunately, EB gets worse as we get older. There's just no getting around it. We always wish that we could say, oh, it gets better. And it doesn't get better. We just learn to adapt with it, but it just doesn't get better. A lot of people in the EB community have problems walking. And I really kind of lost my ability to walk in my early 30s. I was about 32, 33 when it just got too unbearable. My feet were constantly breaking out in blisters and wounds. It was so painful. I would just crawl on my knees because my knees, oddly enough, was just more durable than my feet were. And that's when I really started felt like I was a burden because I couldn't go out or I didn't want to go out anymore because it was painful. I couldn't hang out with friends anymore. Going to the bathroom became very, very problematic, because it hurts walking. And so I was literally trapped in my house for almost 6 months to a year, and nobody really noticed because I felt like such a burden. I didn't say anything. And no, I wasn't going anywhere. In my 31, 32, that's really when I lost my ability to walk. That's when I really, really start feeling like a burden. Yeah.
And what was the turning point that made you realize that's not truth?
Well, the turning point was I knew I had to regain my mobility in some shape, way, or form. And I was kind of on my own in that journey. The internet was still relatively new. Google and everything was still relatively new back then. And I say all of that because my mom and my dad, they were my biggest support group. And they didn't really understand this new technology and the internet and everything that was going on. So they couldn't really help me. They didn't have the resources and everything. So I had to kind of look it up and do research myself. And so I did research online and I wanted something that was going to be lightweight and portable, something that was going to keep up with my lifestyle. Cause even though I had EB, I was still active. I was prominent in the community and I like to travel and go do things. And I just wanted something that was going to be able to keep up with my lifestyle. So I was able to find a lightweight portable scooter that I was able to use. And as soon as I received that, it was just like I had got released from prison or something. I could go up to the corner store and buy something, or I could go up to the mall up the street on my scooter. Like I regained my life back through that. And that's really what turned it around so much. So I started a nonprofit to help people with my condition to get lightweight portable mobility, because that's the trick right there. The lightweight portable mobility is not covered by insurance companies whatsoever. It is always considered a luxury item. And I got denied 3 times by my insurance company for this mobility aid that I really desperately needed. But on the third time, they did invite me kind of in front of a panel to kind of plead my case, so to speak. And I guess I did too good of a job, because by the time I was done and my case was really simple. Not only was it more efficient, it was cost effective. What they were trying to give me was like a hover round, a wheelchair that weighed like 250 pounds. And this chair only weighed about 48 to 50 pounds. And this is more essential for what I need, and it's cheaper. And at the end of it, they said, Mr. Caldwell, we understand that you are very passionate about it. We understand, but this is a luxury item. And that is a direct quote. They literally told me in that meeting it was a luxury item and they were just not going to approve it. And that really devastated me, to knowing it just didn't feel right, simply because of the fact it was cheaper. And I just didn't understand, couldn't wrap my head around it, and I was very politely escorted out by security. That was the turning point. I said, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than what I have going on. This has got to change in some way, somehow, some shape, some form. What I've learned over these past 5 years of doing this, just donating to my community, the EB community, is that my story isn't special. And my story and the other people, although desperately needed, it's not unique. Everyone with any type of mobility issue has the exact same story. I've asked everybody. I met a young lady with ALS. And her mom had to put it on a payment plan, which is what I had to do to get. Most of us are on SSI, some sort of government assistance. So we don't have $2K to drop on a wheelchair, or 1,500 or however much, it costs. And so we have to put it on payment plans like a car. And her story was almost identical to mine. She went to the insurance company. She got denied several times. She tried to appeal her mother and it was just a no. And that was 2 years ago, to put in the contract. And I'm like, wow, this is so much bigger than EB. This is so much bigger than just my small community. And I'm like, this has to expand. This has to be something for everybody. Everybody with a disability, we're not a burden. We're not just these misfortunate individuals that are kind of like a burden on our families or anything. We just need the right equipment to help us live a productive life. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because every scooter that I donate, every wheelchair that I donate, I see the instant change. And I know that feeling so personally to my heart, 'cause what it's like to be literally trapped in your house. And then you have this, and then, oh my God, guess what? All you have to do is fold it up and put it in the trunk of a chair. The chairs that we have out now, the lightest one that I have, it only weighs 35 pounds. Any mother, any nurse, any caregiver can easily fold it up, put it in the trunk of a car, and off they go. And because it's so easy and because it's not a burden at all, it's as easy as just putting a carry-on luggage in the trunk of a car. You get your mobility back. You start wanting to go out with friends to the movies or hanging out to the mall, or you go to the family reunion, or you go to the amusement park, the Disney World, or wherever you want to do. You can do it with confidence, but it all starts with mobility. And if you got something that's 200 pounds, families say, "Oh, we're going to help." It gets old quick. That's the reality of it. But with our scooters, we take the burden away. So I'm really proud of. Yeah.
And can people donate to EB Lifestyle, the
Yeah,
nonprofit?
yeah, people do donate. We always need more funding. I do have several companies that definitely support what we're doing. And shout out to Eddie Vedder and the whole EBRP team. They produced the Matter of Time with Door Knocker Media in Canada. Once they found out my story and everything, they really kind of embraced me and my whole team. The majority of our nonprofit team is run by people with our condition, and I did that purposely just because I feel like we're the ones that really know what we need. And so they joke and say, we're boots on the ground. We're going to take care of what's needed right now. They'll take care of the research and the medical stuff, and we'll take care of the here and now. Yeah, it's a really good symbiotic relationship that we have. I'm really happy about that. But yeah, funding is always a little problematic and a little tight for us. We're always looking for more funding, but we make it work. We've always been able to make it work.
Yeah. I think one of the most resilient and adaptive communities are those with disabilities. And I can relate. Like, a lot of people see our DMEs, durable medical equipment, aka wheelchairs, scooters, whatever you want to call them, as like, oh, poor thing, you're confined to it. But when I think about my wheelchair, and then you probably thought that day when you got yours, like, I picture the Braveheart scene in the movie where he's like, freedom. I mean, it really is the ticket for freedom. And what I love about your story is, I appreciate what you said, that it's not special. I think we all, as individuals, at one point or another, especially if we have a disability that limits our ability to move and to actually engage in life, that we do feel like a burden. But the difference that you do and I do is that we don't just internalize that feeling. We find ways around that feeling and then help other people find their way around that feeling as well, because nobody wants to live through this life as a burden. And I don't believe that we were created as a burden. I think we were created to teach people. And unfortunately, I wish we could be able to teach those people who are running the insurance companies, but they don't want to learn. But it's okay, because what we get to do in the face of their no is show up even bigger and not take that no for an answer or as the prescription for our diagnosis, you know? So I applaud what you're doing. I feel like we're kindred spirits in that same way, that you provide people with the tools that are necessary for them to experience freedom. And I don't know, are you familiar with the medical versus social model of disability?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so teaching moment for everybody who's listening or watching. Up until recently, disability has been approached from this medical model, like, Pauline, you can't go into that building because you don't have legs. Hodges, you can't go outside because your feet hurt because of your skin condition and this rare condition that you're having to live with. That's the medical model. That something is wrong with us, and that's why we can't live a life. The social model is, oh, Pauline, you can't get into that building because there's no ramp. Hodges, you can't get out of your house because you don't have the mobility equipment that gives you the freedom to do so without pain. And so, really, we want people to move to this social model. There is nothing that's a burden about you, Hodges, or about me. It's the way society can look at disability. And I think we're great teachers also of patience and persistence and not taking no for an answer, and determination and resilience and adaptation. Like, all the good things that people want, all those virtues that people desire so much. We've had to refine those virtues because of just the life that we've been given. And so kudos to you and to what you're doing with EB Lifestyle. I would encourage anyone who's watching or listening to this to please go into the show notes. I'll have the link to Hodges' website there so you can donate. Since 2020, when you started EB Lifestyle, you've donated 28. And I would love to double that number and not take 7 years to double that number. Let's double that number in a year, because you're right. It doesn't cost a lot, but the benefit is endless for us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me. Definitely.
Yeah. So Hodges, on the Small Victories podcast, I do like to ask my guests and end with this question. What victory are we celebrating with you today?
Wow. Oh, what victory? I guess the victory of life. I think that's the biggest victory for me. I'm a kid that was born with a chronically ill condition. Life expectancy was 2. According to the doctors, I'm not even supposed to be here. But everything that I've accomplished, and I've done it in a way that is not for myself, but I'm doing advocacy work for others. And that's what I'm really proud of. People said, "Oh, how are you going to run your own nonprofit? You have this disability. You have to do so many medical things. You got to go to so many doctor's appointments." I found a way to do it. And I never thought in a million years I'd be in a Netflix documentary ever. Like, you never could have convinced me that I would have that honor and that privilege to be featured in that. So I'm a co-author of this book, Speaking on Scars with Jake the Snake Roberts. And I'm a co-author with 12 other great authors. This is a really great book, but I got to tell a very small part of my story. I think I'm going to do a novel now. This really has got me wanting to do a whole maybe novel about my life, because if my experiences can help somebody else, whether they have EB or some other condition, and they can look at me and be like, wow, he did it. I can do it too. That's all I really want, for someone to be able to look and be like, Hodges did this. And he has this crazy medical condition, and it's painful and it hurts, but he was still able to find a way to do it. And so whatever someone's passions or whatever they want to do, and if they're disabled especially, I want to be an inspiration to them and to be able to do that. So I guess that's the victory.
That's a beautiful victory, to let people know that they're not alone in their experiences and that they matter, and that whatever they put their mind to, if they really, really want it, they can have it. We'll make sure to also add that book in the show notes so people can purchase that book as well. I want to thank you, Hodges, for being on the Small Victories podcast and for showing up, not just here today for this show, but for creating your nonprofit, for those people that are going to come after you, for those people here and now. Like you said, the research people, the medical teams, they'll handle the future, but you handle what you need right now. And you come alongside people and you help them re-engage in life again. So thank you for that. And to you who's listening or watching this, I want to remind you that your life has value exactly as it is right now. You do not need to be easier, quieter, healthier, or more convenient for others in order to matter. Hodges shows us that even pain can become purpose, and even struggle can become service. He reminds us that some of the strongest people are those who keep showing up, keep adapting, and keep giving despite what they carry. Living victoriously doesn't mean life is free of hardship. It means refusing to let the hardship decide your worth. It means choosing courage, choosing purpose, and choosing to show up anyway. You are not in the way. You are not a burden, and you are here for a reason. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Small Victories podcast. And until we meet again, be blessed.
Come into me, show me what